My husband's first love took her own life for love. My husband followed suit, leaping from my embroidered chamber. His blood stained my wedding gown. That day happened to be our wedding day, and the entire capital mocked me for being a jinx to my husband, and they were the divine couple in the storybooks. The butterfly lovers. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to before my husband proposed. I secretly tore up the marriage contract, smashed the family tokens, and from then on, I ignored my fiancé. This life, I will fulfill your wishes. The daughter of the censor-in-chief, Jiang Ruoshire, hanged herself. Today was supposed to be my wedding day, a joyous occasion where the top scholar marries, but the whispers in the front hall shattered the peace of the celebration, and the tragic news quickly reached the inner chambers. It is said that Miss Jiang took her own life because the man she loved married someone else. My husband Feng Yang lifted the crimson veil for me, and the phoenix crown sparkled with jewels, the light falling on the bronze mirror embedded with precious pearls. Yet, I saw tears streaming down his eyes. He said, "Shui Yuan, I have already spent a lifetime to compensate you, but you never understand who my lifelong love truly is. You only use gratitude to bind the one you love the most, but the truth is, whether it was my 6th birthday or the spring banquet at 16, the person by my side was never you, so you will never know. Whether in life or death, I will always be with her." Feng Yang's words were like a slap in the face. He overturned the wedding wine and removed his bright red wedding attire. At this moment known to everyone, Feng Yang, clad in a single garment, left my bridal chamber. All the guests were caught off guard, their smiles still on their faces, but their eyes filled with surprise as the newly crowned top scholar resolutely ascended the embroidered tower of the bride. Feng Yang's face bore a gentle smile I had never seen before. He said, "You are unwilling to let go, yet I have never yielded. After all, though the sword is fine, it cannot compare to the deep affection for the old sword." Then, Feng Yang leapt down. A torrent of fresh blood drenched my wedding dress from head to toe. Yet Feng Yang's expression was unusually at peace. He had finally accomplished what he had always wanted to do. My husband, Feng Yang, escaped from the wife he detested the most and ran toward the one he truly loved. After waking from the dream, I opened my eyes to see my former boudoir, the voices of humiliation and condemnation from the dream, mocking me for being a jinx to my husband and causing the death of my entire family, still echoed in my ears. Those taunts drove me into a corner, where I accidentally knocked over Feng Yang's cherished bookcase. In an instant, a series of secretive and exquisite portraits of beauties were revealed before my eyes. Sitting Jiang Ruoshire, standing Jiang Ruoshire, reciting poetry Jiang Ruoshire, and Jiang Ruoshire intimately close to Feng Yang. Each beauty painting in the book cage was undoubtedly a meticulously carved memory. I recognized Feng Yang's handwriting, as he vividly described each encounter with Jiang Ruoshire, the story of a talented scholar and a beautiful lady, from a chance meeting to a lifelong oath, flashed before my eyes, until the very end, when my fingertips brushed against the familiar strokes of the brush. I remembered that I had already foreseen this tragic fate of missed connections. That year on the Lantern Festival, Feng Yang opened the book cabinet alone, carefully unrolling and preserving various beautiful paintings. Feng Yang's eyes were truly beautiful, like moonlight reflecting on water, and the tenderness that sparkled within them was enough to make my heart flutter. It was a side of Feng Yang I had never seen before. Even this unintentional revelation of his feelings vanished the moment he turned back and saw me. Feng Yang sternly reprimanded me, accusing me of eavesdropping and peeping. Unworthy of being a lady, he confined me to the embroidery tower, causing me to miss the spring banquet hosted by the Empress. But all of this was clearly a trap he set out of shame, afraid that I, his fiancé, would hinder his secret rendezvous with Jiang Ruoshire at the spring banquet. In the scroll depicting the spring banquet, Feng Yang and Jiang Ruoshire's glances conveyed their affection until they pledged their troth in secret. Feng Yang possessed all the qualities of a divine gentleman as depicted in the storybooks. His deep, unwavering love, steadfast loyalty, and willingness to risk everything moved people deeply. The only flaw was that Feng Yang came from a poor background, living under someone else's roof, and was betrothed since childhood to me, the daughter of a wealthy merchant family. He delved into the imperial examinations for this reason. Naively, I thought he was insecure about his background, so I stayed by his side day and night, gathering ancient texts and famous works from around the world, and even hired a royal tutor to teach him. While other young ladies had all the latest cosmetics and fashionable fabrics, I gave him everything I had. Eventually finding myself by the stove and the inkstone. Later, when my parents went out for business and fell off a cliff, they both died. I wanted the only male heir in the family, Feng Yang, to escort our parents' coffins. He looked up from his books, frowned slightly, and began to scold. Shuiyan, you're too immature. The spring imperial examinations are imminent. Do you not know how much time it takes to hold a wake and escort the coffins? Moreover, I am not a direct descendant or relative of my uncle and aunt, so it is not appropriate for me to preside over the funeral. My eyes were red, but I stammered, unable to speak. Everything he said was correct, both emotionally and logically. I had overstepped my bounds. But in the scrolls that Feng Yang treasured, I saw a different story. Overwhelmed by the sudden loss of my parents and the heavy funeral rites, he set aside his books, no longer mentioning the approaching imperial examinations, and patiently waited at the rouge shop again and again for the charming young lady to apply and test the colors. The girl in the painting was not as plain-looking as I was. Jiang Ruoshui's beauty was extraordinary, like snow gathered under the moon, with a face as divine as a celestial being. She smiled at her reflection in the bronze mirror, while the young master behind her gazed with sincere devotion. In that moment, the noise of the mundane world and the chasm of their family background seemed insignificant. In my dream, I wiped away my tears again and again. When my parents passed away, Feng Yang not only failed to comfort me but also scolded me harshly. My heart ached with a mix of sourness and pain, but I endured it all. But when I saw the proud person, who was as cold as the black ice of the mountains and as distant as the moon over the desert, being teased with rouge by the one they loved, their sincere and passionate gaze like that of a young puppy kept by a maiden, I realized that not all true feelings are reciprocated. Some true feelings are destined to be trampled in the mud. I've been sitting in a daze for a bit too long after waking up. The maid guarding the bed suppressed a laugh as she pulled me up. Seeing no reaction from the young lady. What's wrong with the young lady? The Mr. Feng you've been longing for has finally arrived at the mansion today. Quick! Someone come and help the young lady get dressed. We need the most delicate fairy-like pink dress. And hurry to bring in that old nanny who's an expert at styling hair. The maids filed in one after another, each with a joyful smile on their faces. Who doesn't know that the future son-in-law of the mansion will be staying here as a guest from today? And their young lady, having heard that the son-in-law is handsome and as beautiful as Pan, has already silently given her heart. When I was startled to find that everything I saw was identical to the mansion 3 years ago, the maids and matrons had already adorned me as the most dazzling nouveau riche in Bianjing. Blinded by the long-lost wealth, I hastily pulled off the hairpins and jewelry. No need. Whether the betrothal in Lord Feng's possession is genuine remains uncertain. There's no need for such grandeur. I dismissed the servants, wearing 2 silver hairpins and the most common type of skirt for a young woman, and went to the front hall. It was supposed to be a leap from the embroidery building, a final farewell between life and death. Yet Feng Yang's blue robe came into view once again. In my previous life, Feng Yang was named the top scholar, announced in the Golden Hall, and paraded through the streets on horseback. The courtesans of the flower houses joked, Lord Feng rides by, leaving his blue robe in our dreams, the peerless gentleman, unmatched in the world. As Feng Yang turned around to greet his parents, his gaze fell upon me. The young man's eyes sparkled with a faint joy. Shuai Yuan, are you still half asleep again? My plain makeup made him think I was merely oversleeping once more, but I furrowed my brows and coldly rebuked, who are you? How dare you speak so recklessly and toy with a virtuous woman? Feng Yang was taken aback. He hadn't expected me to treat him so coldly, but he was Feng Yang, accustomed to considering himself my fiancé. After a brief moment of discomposure, Feng Yang's eyes curved into a smile, and the corners of his mouth lifted slightly. Shui Yang, why are you upset? I'll just pretend I never saw you like this. Feng Yang already had half a collection of beautiful women's portraits at this time. He had his beloved sweetheart. His tenderness and lingering affection left me unmoved. I quickly walked behind my parents, my disgust undisguised. Father, mother, who is he? I don't like him. Feng Yang must have been reborn, but he had never been publicly embarrassed by me before, and the shock and suspicion left him frozen in place. How could someone as noble as him remember how the lowly merchant's daughter in his past life treated him with such care, only to suspect that I was truly confused from sleep? Feng Yang came from a scholarly family, however, by his generation, only an ancient plaque from a previous dynasty and 2 farming parents remained. Feng Yang had vowed from a young age to study hard and take the imperial exams in the capital, but with only half an acre of poor farmland at home, it was difficult to raise the travel funds. It wasn't until his father found a marriage contract hidden under a pickle jar. With this marriage contract in hand, Feng Yang proudly set off for the capital, entering my home with great fanfare. In my previous life, his initial awkwardness and sensitivity from being a guest in someone else's home was skillfully resolved by me. I didn't want to see Feng Yang embarrassed, so I used the excuse that we were both still young and suggested that Feng Yang could temporarily serve as my tutor, teaching me to read and write. It was because of this that Feng Yang finally had a foothold, and the elders and servants in the household all treated him with respect as my tutor. But this time, I made no mention of having Feng Yang teach me. A maiden's heart is always fickle. My parents were not surprised that I had been pining for Feng Yang a few days ago, yet now, upon our first meeting, I disdain him. They simply avoided mentioning the marriage and told outsiders that Feng Yang was a distant cousin, staying here for the imperial exams. But Feng Yang was not content with this. I deliberately left him waiting for a long time, but Feng Yang did not lose heart. One day after dinner, he respectfully clasped his fists and bowed deeply, sincerely thanking my parents for their generosity in providing him with a place to stay. Taking this opportunity, Feng Yang restated his intentions, humbly acknowledging his humble origins and his inferiority to me, the daughter of a prestigious family in the capital. He pledged that after passing the imperial examinations, he would follow the proper procedures of 3 letters and 6 etiquettes to marry me as a scholar's wife. Bones heavy, spirit cold, a vessel of the heavenly temple, with a pair of pupils that cut through autumn waters, a 16-year-old youth, graceful and ethereal, his actions unrestrained yet imbued with the aura of years spent with books, easily earning admiration for his character and integrity. It's no wonder I fell for him at first sight. Feng Yang, even in his youth, was already a master of both literary and martial arts, his bearing extraordinary. His demeanor was as warm and smooth as jade. Always appropriate and courteous. Does he truly love me, or is he just willing to marry me? Not at all. Feng Yang has always seen me as a promise yet to be fulfilled, a stepping stone on his path to success. But my parents are inexplicably excited. Since ancient times, lowly merchants seeking to transcend their status have only 2 paths. One is for their descendants to excel in the imperial examinations and achieve the highest honors, thereby transitioning from commerce to officialdom. The other is to catch a scholar official as a son-in-law after the announcement of the examination results, allowing their offspring to escape the fate of being inferior. Feng Yang's words undoubtedly ignited the deepest hopes within my parents' hearts, but I only wish this faint hope would completely vanish, never to bring ruin to my family again. I tossed the silver chopsticks aside, making a crisp sound. Mr. Feng, you are truly boastful. You claim you are unworthy of me. Yet you insist on declaring you will marry me in the future, tarnishing my reputation as a maiden, and the betrothal you speak of is never shown to anyone. Whether my grandfather ever made such a ridiculous promise to your family remains entirely uncertain. Feng Yang was certain that someone would deny it outright. What he never expected was that these words would come from me. He quickly realized that I hadn't been reborn, and perhaps my initial impression of him wasn't deep, so it was natural for me to harbor doubts. Feng Yang remained calm and composed. He took out a sealed bamboo tube he had on hand and presented it to me. Miss Shui Yang, there is indeed a betrothal. To show his seriousness, he emphasized specifically, I have never parted with this marriage contract, seeing that he was not embarrassed but rather gentle and polite. I reluctantly took the so-called ancestral marriage contract. Under everyone's watchful eyes, I poured out a blank, damaged old paper. My parents were astonished. Young Master Feng, what is this? Feng Yang was also caught off guard. This is absolutely impossible. He carefully examined the tattered paper, as if trying to find any trace of ink left behind. Father's face was already showing signs of doubt. Our family is well off, while Feng Yang is destitute. He figured that Feng Yang had come to beg for money, but his father was willing to give face to a scholar. It's fine, Mr. Feng, even without a betrothal, our two families share a long-standing relationship. Nephew, rest assured in your studies, there's no need to worry about food, lodging, or writing materials in the capital. However, Feng Yang hated being patronized. He sought legitimacy in everything, devising ways to have others willingly hand over what he desired. While he himself earned the reputation of being indifferent and unattached, disdaining material possessions, in his previous life, seeing that I was already infatuated, he never voiced such sentiments but instead sought to tear up the engagement directly. Feng Yang claimed that he was unworthy of me and did not want to delay my future, yet he allowed me to snatch the engagement contract from his hands, carefully cradling it. It was the first time I spoke harshly to him, forbidding him from belittling himself. The gentleman I chose was undoubtedly the finest in the world. From then on, I became insecure, fearing that Feng Yang might hesitate or feel dissatisfied with our engagement. But in this life, I am determined to fulfill what Feng Yang dared not do in his previous life. On the second day after he stayed at my residence, I had the maidservants wash his clothes. Feng Yang, accustomed to my meticulous care in his previous life, naturally did not suspect anything. I delegated all the dirty and unpleasant tasks to the maid. His claim of the betrothal never leaving my side was merely a self-flattering statement. As if he truly cherished this marriage, the maid easily retrieved the bamboo tube containing the betrothal document. I immediately tore it to shreds for Feng Yang, burned it to ashes, and scattered them so they vanished without a trace. I even humiliated myself by presenting a blank sheet of paper, yet despite my efforts, Feng Yang never suspected me. The marriage contract vanished without a trace, and Feng Yang, unable to defend himself, hastily pulled out the pendant from his chest. "Uncle, you misunderstand. I am not here for handouts. Please look at this jade ring, which was left behind along with the marriage contract. This item is a perfect match for the jade pendant that Miss Xue Yuan has worn since childhood. It is also the token of the marriage agreement between the two families." Unexpectedly, I blinked innocently, looking utterly naive. "What jade pendant? This young lady is quite mischievous and has broken countless pieces of jewelry. I'm not sure which one Mr. Feng is referring to as a pair. How the tables have turned. Feng Yang now dares to use the token of his engagement to Jiang Ruoxue as a proposal for my hand in marriage. Jade rings paired, twin shadows follow, twin hearts must not betray. My grandfather did indeed entrust me with a jade pendant before his passing. He said that someday someone would be able to unite the jade rings as one. If this person becomes wealthy and powerful, then marry him. But if it's mediocre, it should be smashed on the spot. For 3 generations, our family has been in business, and we would never engage in a losing trade. Yet in my previous life, I refused to believe in this, determined to marry Feng Yang, who had nothing, and ended up reaping what I sowed. Initially, Feng Yang's jade ring was not something he showed me of his own accord. Instead, I accidentally noticed a long-worn jade pendant inside his collar. I was overjoyed and hurriedly told him that I also had a matching jade ring, that we were meant to be. But Feng Yang's face turned stern as he reprimanded me for being frivolous and reckless. "Would you pledge yourself to a beggar on the street just because he wore this jade pendant?" He spoke without reservation, and the embarrassment and shame enveloped me in an instant. Feng Yang, taking advantage of my confusion, actually reached out to demand my jade ring. "Forget it, we are not yet married. It's better to deal with such things that invite unnecessary gossip as soon as possible, or else before the wedding is finalized, the whole capital will know about our private matters." Overwhelmed with shame, I naturally respected his wishes. I never expected that my jade ring would ultimately end up in Jiang Ruoshui's possession. The two of them held onto this pair of jade rings tightly before they died. At that time, I realized too late, a pair meant for each other should be the talented scholars and beautiful ladies in storybooks, not the mismatched rotten fish and spoiled shrimp who should disperse early. So, I accepted it. This time, the engagement was torn apart by me, and the token was smashed by me. My marriage to Feng Yang became a mere empty talk. He had no choice but to endure the humiliation and accept the generous support from my family, allowing him to take the imperial examinations. Just a difference between men and women. I play in the back courtyard, and no outsiders are allowed in. But when I next saw Feng Yang, it was the maid who told me that a young lady had secretly met Feng Yang at the side door. I told her to stop gossiping. The maid obediently acknowledged, then asked me again. "Miss, do you want to know what they talked about? There's not much fun in being a young lady in a boudoir, just catching others in secret trysts and teasing them about their questionable taste. But Feng Yang really does eat well. Her hairpins are loosely arranged, her makeup delicately applied. Jiang Ruoxue is truly a beauty of graceful demeanor, yet she could withstand the pressure of being discovered and secretly meet Feng Yang, which was commendable courage. In Bianjing, summer arrives. And the east wind blows gently, like ripples in the thin garments of young maidens. Jiang Ruoxue gently tucked the stray strands of hair behind her ear, her tender voice soft and melodious. "Feng Yang, I follow you without a name or status, yet you won't even give me a token of your affection." With that, the beauty seemed both annoyed and shy. "Others make private commitments, and I make private commitments too. How did I end up with such a stubborn blockhead? I find this jade ring of yours quite nice. Consider it a small advance on the betrothal gift from me." The young lady, Jiang Ruoxue, affectionately reached out and took the jade ring from Feng Yang. Throughout, Feng Yang simply lowered his eyebrows and nodded, showing utmost obedience. Her love and indifference are as distinct as day and night. None of us had anticipated that Jiang Ruoxue's visit had ulterior motives. After obtaining Feng Yang's jade pendant, she began to disdain the red cord that her beloved brother had personally strung. Without hesitation, Jiang Ruoxue discarded the red cord onto the ground, leaving only the jade ring in her fair and delicate palm. She coquettishly said, "Feng Yang, I'm still missing a jade base and a tassel. You should go to the Jade Immortal Pavilion to get a base made, then find the embroideress from Jiangnan at Shoshin Workshop to make a tassel. You must give it to me by the end of the month as a sign of your sincerity to me." In truth, Jiang Ruoxue's request was not too demanding, just about matching social status. If Feng Yang were a noble's son, or if he had an engaged fiancé willing to contribute, it would merely be a matter of casually giving an order. However, the jade trays at the Jade Pavilion cost at least 100 taels, with no upper limit. The Shoshin Workshop is the premier choice for noble ladies in Bianjing to refine their embroidery skills. If a Jiangnan embroiderer personally crafts the piece, the price could be as high as gold for every inch. In this new life, Feng Yang was no longer a naive newcomer. How could he not understand that he was incapable of meeting Jiang Ruoxue's demands? Yet, he still agreed. The maidservant who was crouching in the corner watching the spectacle laughed at his foolishness. I wanted to laugh too. But why were the tears that slid down the corner of my mouth bitter? In my previous life, ever since it was confirmed that I had an engagement with Feng Yang, my parents often used the excuse of taking care of the shop and assisting with household affairs to give their future son-in-law special attention. They were worried that the poor scholar would not be able to afford a decent betrothal gift when he married me. And after all, the family property was ultimately ours, the couple's. And they were never stingy with it. Not to mention after my parents passed away, I was weak and unable to manage business affairs. Our family's business completely fell into Feng Yang's hands. He treated Jiang Ruoxue with everything she asked for and never let her down. But he treated me with nothing but neglect. Even so, he still kept his promise and married me after passing the imperial exams. Just avoid the 3 letters and 6 etiquettes as much as possible. And the betrothal gifts are kept strictly confidential. In reality, there are none, but secrets are the most valuable things. For a time, people in the streets and alleys believed that the newly appointed top scholar, Feng Yang, had given me, a merchant's daughter, some kind of family heirloom worth a fortune. The speculations in the market were quite convincing, suggesting it was a plaque bestowed upon the Feng family by the previous dynasty. But what I received was a wedding of name only and a groom who committed suicide for another. I cried for no reason, and my maid was so scared that she didn't dare to tell me the love story of Feng Yang and the unknown woman for quite some time. It wasn't until this day that my father returned from outside and didn't come straight to me with new toys, but instead, He was serious and taciturn, ordering me to go to the study. I thought he had finally discovered that I had secretly looked through the family's account books, but Feng Yang and my father were both waiting in the study. I don't get along with Feng Yang, so after a perfunctory greeting, my father, unsurprised, picked up a jade pendant and asked me to take a closer look. He said, "I heard your jade pendant broke. Your cousin has been working day and night to save money to have a new jade setting made for you, complete with a tassel. If it weren't for the embroiderer at Shoshin workshop who saw me buying materials and asked when Master Feng from our household would settle the remaining payment, father wouldn't have known about this. Xueyan, I can see that Master Feng really cares for you. My father had come to arrange a marriage for me, which turned out to be a false alarm. No wonder Feng Yang's expression was as bad as the day he married me. I naturally dared not accept the jade pendant painstakingly crafted by Feng Yang. It wasn't that I wanted to meddle in his relationship with Jiang Ruoxue. I was afraid that if I agreed to accept it, my father would think I had tacitly agreed to this marriage. I feigned taking the meticulously adorned jade pendant, my tone disdainful. What's so special about this broken jade? Could it really make father sell his daughter? Yet, my hands didn't stop as the pendant slipped from between my father's and my fingers. The jade ring hit the ground and shattered with a sound. Feng Yang's face turned ashen with anger, but I wasn't surprised. Instead, I knowingly stepped on it twice, saying, judging by the sound, "It's just a trinket worth 100 taels or so." Luckily, I didn't take it out, otherwise, I'd be the laughingstock. Feeling bored, I turned and left. My father covered his eyes and rubbed his forehead, but he couldn't do anything about his unruly daughter, seeing Feng Yang's expression change. He waved his hand and gave him 200 taels to settle the matter. Feng Yang was originally worried about money, but now, money was no longer a concern, yet the token of love that Jiang Ruoxue specifically asked for was gone. He would definitely want an explanation from me, so I avoided him, stayed in my room, and studied arithmetic and accounting with my mother. By the time I was capable of managing a small shop on my own, late autumn had already arrived in Bianjing. I often show filial piety to my parents, but suddenly I learned that the daughter of the censor-in-chief, Jiang Ruoxue, is engaged, but this time, her fiancé is not Feng Yang, but a distant cousin from the Jiang family. My parents have been in business for many years, with extensive connections. They sigh that many of the high-ranking families in the capital are all show and no substance. Even the chief supervising secretary, Jiang, was not exempt. Now, years of deficits were about to erupt. What does it matter to be the highest-ranking official? Still, one is forced to sell one's daughter for silver to fill the gaps, and Jiang Ruoxue's fiancé was the local river and canal boss. Water bandits and rogue bandits can spend thousands of taels on betrothal gifts and still marry noble ladies from the capital. When this news broke, Jiang Ruoxue came to the side gate several times to cry in Feng Yang's arms. This was something that had never happened in her previous life. Because the thousands of taels that the Jiang family had embezzled should have been covered long ago with the silver from my family. Provided by Feng Yang, Jiang Ruoxue by the side door of my house was filled with resentment and regret, along with a hint of reluctance. She couldn't bear to leave her parents, her lover, or the capital city. The only thing she didn't hesitate to leave behind was her marriage, because she was a well-bred young lady. Jiang Ruoxue had long understood that her marriage was not something she could decide for herself. Jiang Ruoxue returned the betrothal gift, which Feng Yang had bought for 200 taels, to her lover before leaving. The girl's lips were painted red, and her cheeks blushed like rosy clouds. Her farewell dispersed in the autumn wind as Jiang Ruoxue slowly said, "Feng Lang, we'll meet again if fate allows." Feng Yang, however, surprised me by not trying to stop her. As the sun set, the disheveled young man turned back to see my skirt swaying. I could see panic and surprise in Feng Yang's eyes as he carefully chose his words to ask me, "Shuiyuan, why are you here?" I smiled faintly and answered slowly, "This is my home. Why shouldn't I be here? Does Mr. Feng's remark imply that you want to drive me away? But it was my family who saw your difficulties in the imperial examinations and allowed you to stay here as a guest, instead of working hard. You indulge in romantic affairs. Shouldn't you be the one to leave?" Feng Yang froze in place. Even the top scholar found it hard to accept the reckoning of two beautiful women in succession. I couldn't be bothered to deal with him, yet I had no choice but to. A sudden snowstorm in late autumn brought winter overnight. Yang Yuan's parents in their hometown were already struggling due to poor harvests, living frugally, and the harsh weather had caused both of them to fall ill. While Yang Yuan was insatiably greedy, his parents were practical and honest farmers. In my previous life, I sympathized with Yang Yuan's parents for their hard work in farming and brought them to the capital early to enjoy a comfortable life, relieving him of worries. The elderly couple was deeply grateful and secretly cultivated wasteland on the outskirts of the capital. After the autumn harvest, they personally drove a cart loaded with fruits and vegetables to deliver them to me. They never dared to discuss our marriage, carefully addressing me as young mistress as the servants did. That autumn, Bianjing was dry, and my black hair was difficult to manage. Feng Yang's mother saw the problem and personally prepared Osmanthus hair oil for me, bringing it to my side. Seeing how well I used it, her rough, calloused hands unconsciously rubbed against the coarse fabric of her skirt. I wondered if the servants I had sent were betraying me, as they had allowed the elderly to dress so poorly. Feng Yang's mother quickly waved her hands, saying that she already had many sets of luxurious clothes. But as an elderly person who worked in the fields, she didn't want to wear them. Indeed, despite her hard work in making a jar of Osmanthus oil, she didn't even spare half of it for herself. Now, both of Feng Yang's parents have fallen ill one after the other. He was anxious and frustrated, but all he did was pawn the betrothal gift worth 200 taels and send the money home, as the spring examination was approaching next year. Feng Yang couldn't possibly return home to attend to family matters at this time. I couldn't quite put my feelings into words. In this life, my engagement to Feng Yang was cancelled, and my parents stayed with me, no longer traveling for business. My parents remained unharmed, but Feng Yang's parents suffered greatly. Through some roundabout questioning of my parents, I learned that Feng Yang kept sending money, but he didn't realize that in their remote hometown, the medicines his parents needed were scarce, so, having money alone was not enough. Feng Yang could never have anticipated such a result. As in his previous life, these trivial matters were all handled by me, his fiancée. He focused solely on his studies and exams, and in his spare time, he exchanged vows of eternal love with Jiang Ruoxue. I secretly searched every pharmacy in the capital, gathered the ingredients for the prescription, and sent them by fast horse to Feng Yang's hometown under the name of my parents. But before the deep winter arrived, the bad news came first. The relay station reported that by the time their men arrived, Feng Yang's parents had already been ill and passed away for many days. The courier did everything he could, helping Feng Yang pack up the belongings of the elderly couple and bringing them back to the capital. I noticed a half-finished jar of Osmanthus hair oil among the items. This old couple had spent their entire lives working the land, never indulging in any luxuries. Why would they suddenly make such fine hair oil without reason? My eyes welled up with tears, and I forced myself to look away, pretending to be indifferent as I sighed for Feng Yang, lamenting that one desires to care for their parents but finds them gone too soon. As the son, Feng Yang went white-haired overnight. No longer the dashing young man he once was, he began to study with relentless dedication, hanging his hair from the beams and pricking his thigh with an awl. Yet, when Jiang Ruoxue, dressed in red, was sent off to marry far away, he drank himself into a stupor day and night, unable to control his emotions. It was hard for anyone to accept that the girl who had willingly taken her own life for him in a previous life had now turned around and married another man. The nosy maid secretly eavesdropped on Feng Yang's drunken confessions. She excitedly shared with me that it turns out that the Chief Justice Jiang had been stationed abroad with his family for many years, and the place where Chief Justice Jiang served was coincidentally Feng Yang's hometown, so Feng Yang and Jiang Ruoxue were childhood sweethearts. Later, when Jiang Ruoxue returned to the capital with Chief Justice Jiang, Feng Yang vowed from then on that he would definitely become an official in the capital in the future. So that's how it is. He was willing to betray his marriage for the chance to take the imperial exams in the capital, all for Jiang Ruoxue. Unfortunately, his moon was destined to leave him. The maid's face showed emotion. As she said Feng Yang did show a bit of deep affection. I smiled and lightly tapped her with my folding fan. Deep affection, more like terrifyingly shallow feelings. The maid tilted her head, confused. I explained to her at a leisurely pace. Did you see him grieve like this when his parents passed away? That winter passed by extremely quickly, perhaps because Feng Yang no longer sought trouble with me, and my parents doted on me even more, and after the spring, I would come of age. My parents knew my time at home was limited, so my mother found a match for me. The suitor was the young master of the honeyed fruit shop at the corner of the lane. It was a merchant marriage, a match of equal standing. Father originally still harbored hopes for Feng Yang's betrothal. But somehow, a maid let slip that Feng Yang had once had an affair with the Jiang family's married daughter. From then on, father dared not think too much about it. As for the young master of the honey-fried bureau, he came often in the winter, each time bringing me meat oil pastries, golden flour cakes, honey cakes, shrimp dumplings, crab roe soup buns, and carved honey-fried treats. Sometimes, I wish I could move the entire honey-fried department here. The young master is thorough in his actions, leaving no room for anyone to accuse him of private favors. Even Feng Yang, who is a guest at my house, receives his kindness every time, but Feng Yang dumps all those fine goods. It pains me to see this, so I had the servants stop sending them to him and bring them all to my room instead. For some reason, this touched upon Feng Yang's sensitive pride. The next day, he blocked my path on the way to buy rouge. I hadn't seen Feng Yang in quite a while. The eyes that once haunted my dreams were now bloodshot and dull, beaten down by the vicissitudes of life. Feng Yang was so downcast that he had no heart to trim his beard, and his clothes were dusty, making him look like an old man by the roadside, unkempt. My expression was too astonished, and it caught him off guard. In both lifetimes, he had probably never seen me dressed up, or perhaps I had dressed up for him before, but he had never once turned his gaze toward me. I am like the brightest and most charming maiden in Bianjing, adorned with jingling pendants and an array of exquisite hair ornaments. He is like a poor boy seeing a goddess descend for the first time, his eyes filled with the same infatuation and tenderness I once witnessed. Xue Yuan, are you angry with me? Did you deliberately arrange a marriage to spite me? The moment that hoarse voice spoke, his self-important tone made me cringe with embarrassment. Mr. Feng, please behave yourself. I have never had any dealings with you, so why would I be angry? I pretended to be ignorant while fully understanding the situation. Feng Yang's smile was bitter. Xueyan, stop pretending. I already know that you've been reborn too. I remained silent about past events, and Feng Yang thought I was finally softening. He meticulously recounted everything I had done for him since my rebirth. You switched the marriage contracts, destroyed the tokens. Wasn't it because you were angry that I didn't marry you in my previous life? But when I truly wanted to pledge my love to Ruo Xue for 3 lifetimes, you became jealous and shattered my jade ring. You still can't let go of me. You pretend not to care for our parents, but in reality, you've been gathering medicinal herbs for them in secret. Xueyan, let's stop this quarrel. From now on, I, Feng Yang, genuinely wish to live in harmony with you and spend our lives together. He spoke with composure, as if finally giving in to my relentless nagging, agreeing to my desperate plea for marriage. Little did Feng Yang know that his self-indulgent sentimentality would only earn him a merciless slap from me in the middle of the street. I was trembling with anger, my face a mix of shame and indignation. You scoundrel, my family took you in out of kindness, and you dare to scheme against me, claiming to be my husband, in the bustling marketplace. My outburst drew a large crowd, quickly surrounding Feng Yang and me. I wept softly, tearfully accusing Feng Yang of his various actions. The fake engagement and his repeated attempts to trick me into marrying him were secondary. I also revealed his affair with another woman, yet he still tried to keep me, an innocent maiden, on the hook. The world loves tales of entangled lovers but despises those who break hearts. As more and more people of all ages joined in to denounce Feng Yang on my behalf, he found himself in a precarious position, offering only feeble defenses. The verbal condemnation I endured in my previous life now fell upon Feng Yang, who prided himself on his integrity and reputation, leaving him utterly humiliated. But since this wasn't the first time, I told him not to rush to die. The next day, I filed another lawsuit against him at the local government office. Feng Yang had already risen to fame with a single battle, becoming a well-known phoenix man in Bianjing. My solid evidence, both in testimony and material, propelled his reputation even higher. In the end, the matter escalated to such an extent that it caught the attention of the emperor. The Hanlin Academy revoked Feng Yang's eligibility for the imperial examinations overnight, banning him from taking the exams for life. I tolerated him for a moment, not out of mercy, but rather, I was accumulating strength for a decisive strike. Feng Yang's reputation was in tatters, and his parents kicked him out of the house. The once renowned top scholar now had nothing left. The honey-fried bureau quickly learned about my entanglement with Feng Yang. When the young master came to my door, I returned all the gifts he had given me in the past. I said, it was my fault, I kept too much hidden, and delayed the young master. After all, no one would like a sharp-tongued bride who causes a scene in court. Just that silly boy was at a loss. His eyes read, you still despise me, don't you? In his hand, he still held freshly baked rose pastry, square festive cakes, auspicious fruits, crystal winter melon dumplings, and pearl jade soup dumplings. I swallowed hard. It's not that. My engagement to the young master of the honey-fried shop was set after the spring imperial exams. I asked him, why after the results are announced? The young master made me a rabbit-shaped milk cake and handed it to me. Many families in the capital have already booked a teacher's appreciation banquet. My family is busy with many affairs, so entering a bit later will give you some peace and quiet. I chewed on the rabbit's ears, mumbling, what about next time? Next time, we'll go out to shop. As expected of the young master, even when being considerate to his wife, he knows how to be frugal. He explained to me in detail, I married a new wife, not a servant. How can I let you do work for me? I didn't say anything. Yes, a woman marrying into a family is not selling herself into slavery. Even the young master of the honey-fried bureau understood this. So how could the previous life's newly appointed #1 scholar, Feng Yang, not understand it? He was content to see it happen. Yet he still blamed me for taking the position of his rightful wife, the eldest lady. He believed I should have spent my life helping him without any title or status. So, I calmly prepared for the marriage until the results of the spring imperial examinations were announced. I never expected that this year's spring examination would be so different from the previous life. Although Feng Yang was stripped of his qualifications and could not take the imperial exam, yet he caused the largest-scale cheating scandal in the imperial examinations since the founding of the dynasty. No one comes to the Three Treasures Hall without a reason. Whenever there is a major event, I always go to pay my respects to my parents. They were not surprised and dismissed the servants, then began to tell me about the recent scandal in the capital involving exam fraud. The cause was that dozens of candidates in the spring imperial examinations had all copied the same essay. If the essay had been ordinary, it would have been fine, yet the article was written in one fluid, flawless stream. Each word a gem, directly addressing the pros and cons, a rare, natural talent of the highest order. The emperor, upon reading it, was so determined to find the source of the article that he almost forgot to deal with the matter of the imperial examination fraud. However, after an investigation by the Grand Court of Judicial Review, the person who appeared before the emperor was none other than Feng Yang, the prime suspect who had caused such a stir in the capital recently. Feng Yang, after all, had been the top scholar of the previous imperial examination in his past life, brimming with knowledge and unparalleled talent. Even if he loses his eligibility for the imperial examinations, it cannot overshadow his extraordinary talents. Moreover, having lived twice, he has experienced the imperial examination interview, using that opportunity to cleverly defend himself and quickly gaining the emperor's favor. Feng Yang is capable of great things. His insignificant romantic entanglements are of little importance. The emperor deliberately promotes him to the position of a junior 9th-rank scribe in the Hanlin Academy. Feng Yang was unwilling, and he petitioned the emperor for the hand of a certain woman. He wants to marry Jiang Ruoxue. I couldn't resist butting in, eager to see how the drama would unfold. Jiang Ruoxue was already a married woman, and the spectacle of two men vying for one woman was always a source of endless entertainment. Their parents looked at me with strange expressions, hesitating and passing the responsibility back and forth. I sensed something was wrong. In the end, my father gave in to my mother. He avoided my gaze and said awkwardly, "Xueyan, listen to your father first. Don't get too excited. I'm not excited, but can I not listen?" Before I could cover my ears, my father quickly said, "Feng Yang doesn't want fame, power, or official positions. He only wishes to petition for your hand in marriage. What bad luck, in 2 lifetimes. He's come to seek revenge, hasn't he?" Throughout history, obtaining an imperial decree for marriage has never been a reward that can be sought with a single document. Not to mention that my marriage to the young master has already been officially recognized, and the government has already registered us as a couple. The court also decisively does not allow the absurdity of a woman marrying 2 men, but the emperor values talent, and he simply pretends never to have heard Feng Yang's request. The day Feng Yang took office as a new official was the same day I got married, and his final struggle did not change the course of events in the slightest. He never reported to the Hanlin Academy, instead sneaking into my embroidered chamber adorned with red silk, on the day of the wedding. The entire estate was decorated just as it had been in my previous life. Once again, I sat before the copper mirror embedded with precious pearls, wearing a phoenix crown and a fiery red wedding gown. Feng Yang arrived silently, and I first noticed the tears on his jawline and his pale, thin lips in the mirror. His voice was weary, and Feng Yang said he regretted it. I did not turn back to look at the person behind me. After being reborn, I restyled my hair, beautified my eyebrows, and skillfully crafted a graceful appearance. Choosing to marry into a high-ranking official's family, I only wished to resolve grievances and untie knots, to no longer harbor hatred, to part ways with mutual relief, and to each find joy in their own life. However, Feng Yang refused to let me go. The bride in the mirror removed the rouge from her lips and slowly began to draw her eyebrows. "What if you regret it? What if you tell me, Feng Yang, you're just deceiving yourself? Thinking that if you see me again, I'll change my mind and run away with you. Isn't that right?" I glanced at Feng Yang, whose face was turning increasingly pale, and sneered, "But do you think you deserve such an outcome now?" Oh, I almost forgot. He truly has the ability to captivate and drive one to the brink of life and death. In a previous life, Jiang Ruoshui couldn't marry him and willingly hanged herself. But was that truly Feng Yang's charm? That was the sincerity gained by giving everything of an innocent woman. Feng Yang had not just realized where his true feelings lay, he was only regretting that after his rebirth, I no longer offered him everything, causing his pursuit of love to fail and making him feel humiliated. He tried his best to make amends and cover up his mistakes, but I was unwilling to get entangled with him. After finishing my makeup, I was about to leave with my fan. Feng Yang, however, stubbornly grabbed my wrist. "Shui Yuan, I don't believe you have no feelings for me at all." Without hesitation, I turned and slapped him again, perfectly symmetrical to the previous one. "You don't believe me? How dare you not believe me? When have I not treated you with genuine feelings, seeing you as my husband, seeing you as my everything? But all you remember is my mischief and how I hindered you from using our engagement to exploit me again, from no longer supporting your parents, while my true husband, with the 3 letters and 6 etiquettes, and the grand sedan chair, has betrothed me as his wife. He will remember my dietary restrictions and my preferences. Feng Yang, your rotten sincerity was what I didn't want first, not that you regretted it later." Feng Yang seemed to have lost all his strength. He looked at me with his brows lowered, his eyelashes trembling to block the light reflected from the bronze mirror. As if tears were about to fall, I was full of vigilance. Marriage is a joyous occasion, most valued for its harmony and virtue. I don't want him to be overwhelmed by stimuli as he was in my previous life, jumping off my embroidered tower once again. In the end, Feng Yang simply left quietly, looking at his back, which was filled with longing and loss. I couldn't help but laugh at myself for being too sentimental. I am not the beautiful woman he loves deeply in this life, so why would he risk his life for me? Life is not just about love and hatred. With both parents alive and life going on as usual, this was something I could only dream of in my previous life. Honoring the elders, celebrating the union, my marriage no longer becomes a funeral for lovers, and no one can step on my joys and sorrows to prove the eternity of their love. After the wedding, I stopped thinking about Feng Yang for a long time, and even my past life seemed like a fleeting dream. Gradually fading away with its glamorous and tragic veneer, I began to merge the honey-fried bureau with my own business. It wasn't until half of the most prosperous street in Bienjing became my own masterpiece that the young master finally realized, a little late, that I was not a clinging vine dependent on my husband. Another year, and the spring imperial examinations were announced, but he was completely unable to interfere with the arrangements and operations of the Honeyfried Bureau, yet. I heard that under my vigorous efforts, the imperial consorts in the harem also praised the Honeyfried Bureau highly. The Honeyfried Bureau's reputation soared, and our family's business doubled as a result. My parents were happy to be idle masters, spending their days raising birds and tending to flowers. Although Jiang Ruoxue married far from the capital, her husband did not mistreat her. My shops, the Rouge Store, the Fabric Shop, and the Jade Pavilion often receive orders from waterway bosses. The styles and varieties are all what Jiang Ruoxue favored before her marriage. It wasn't until an accidental encounter when a pawnshop assistant brought a book basket filled with beautiful paintings to me that I saw Feng Yang again. At the prime of his youth, his hair had already turned white, and his body was bent and stooped. Although it was a working day at the Hanlin Academy, he was not wearing his official robes. That coarse hempen garment made him look as if he had returned to the days when he first arrived in the capital as a country boy. Feng Yang hoped to pawn the beautiful painting he had cherished for half his life, in exchange for the funds to return home. The pawnshop clerk is most skilled at judging people by their appearance. With a look of disdain, he opened the bookcase, but upon seeing the faces of the beauties, he hastily invited me into the shop in a panic. Feng Yang wanted to pawn was the various postures of me, standing, sitting, lying. His brushwork is exquisite, his painting skills extraordinary. Feng Yang's portraits of beauties have always been vividly lifelike, but I did not linger on them, nor did I reminisce about the past depicted in the paintings. I asked him casually, as if making small talk, "Mr. Feng, where are the half-finished portraits of beauties you used to have?" Feng Yang clearly hadn't expected me to refrain from mocking him and instead treat him with the same warmth and kindness as an old friend. His brows softened slightly, and his gaze became gentle. Feng Yang addressed me by my given name, overstepping propriety, Xue Yuan. You truly still peek into my bookcase. In his previous life, what he cherished were scrolls depicting the intimate tales of how he and Jiang Ruoxue came to know and love each other. Now that things had come to this, he did not hide it, only saying that those paintings had all been burned by him, fueled by wine. After Jiang Ruoxue got married, after speaking, Feng Yang looked at me eagerly, as if the scroll in my hand was truly waiting to be sold at a high price. But what Feng Yang sought was not money. He wanted me to see the deep, unrelenting longing that mirrored his passionate love from a past life. Yet, I did not fulfill his wish. The usually tight-fisted shopkeeper's face showed no sign of cracking. So I said, 1 coin. What? Your painting is worth a penny. The bookcase, 15 coins. Feng Yang was caught off guard. My humiliation caused his tender demeanor and composed attitude to crumble first. The weathered old man's eyes flashed with anger. He lunged onto the counter, baring his yellow teeth as he accused me. Xue Yuan, do you truly have no heart? What exactly did I do wrong that you refuse to forgive me? Feng Yang's loss of composure almost got him thrown out by the pawnshop assistant. I stopped the assistant from grabbing a weapon and spoke calmly. Mr. Feng, if the scroll in today's book cage belonged to Jiang Ruoxue, would you still bring it out to pawn? Feng Yang's crazed expression faltered. I already knew his decision. Even if he were destitute and infamous, Feng Yang would never harm Jiang Ruoxue in the slightest. His beloved has married another, and the hidden portrait of his beauty, once revealed, would only tarnish Jiang Ruoxue's purity and reputation. But I am different. I am worthless and can be slandered at will. Feng Yang couldn't be bothered to consider my reputation in the inner chambers, nor my situation in my husband's household after marriage. He prided himself on being the repentant celestial gentleman from the storybooks, pursuing his wife 1,000 miles. Yet he loved and hated me at inappropriate times. How laughable, both in my past life and this one. He is actually no different. I bought his painting for a single coin, and Feng Yang disappeared from public view. As the new year approached, a tragic news spread from the residence of Minister Jiang of the Censorate. Their daughter, returning home after marriage, encountered a deranged old man who leaped from her former embroidery building. The foul, warm blood splattered onto the satin shoes embroidered with shoe patterns worn by the young lady. Jiang Ruoxue and her sister-in-law had no choice but to come to my family's shoe shop to order new shoe uppers. Her sister-in-law joked about the fright of that day and asked her at the end if she recognized the person. Jiang Ruoxue picked out the fabric without batting an eye. "No, I don't." After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I divorced Shen Nanqing 5 years ago. Returning to the capital again, I planned to take my mother south, but at this time, Shen Nanqing sent me a message: Linus coming-of-age ceremony. A seat has been reserved for you at the main table, if you repent and behave cautiously. After the ceremony I will take you to the Yamen to revoke the divorce papers. From now on, you will still be the Prime Minister's wife. Seeing this note, the boy lying in my arms furrowed his brow. Mother, does this person have a grudge against you? Aren't you already the Duchess of the state? Why would he still ask you to become the Prime Minister's wife? Late at night, I was persuading Mother to go south with me, but she was accustomed to staying in the capital and didn't want to leave with me. As we talked, her words suddenly stopped. After pondering for a long time, she finally took out a letter from a box. She said the letter was delivered by Shen Nanqing 3 days ago, and she wasn't sure whether to give it to me, but recalling how infatuated I used to be with him, she thought about it for a long time and decided to let me handle it myself. Mother was right. Those years I was indeed captivated by Shen Nanqing, laying down my sword, willingly confined to the inner chambers. A decade of slumber. But hearing this now, I was slightly taken aback. Having been away from the capital for 5 years, I could barely recognize the way home anymore. Who would still care about a husband who had been divorced for 5 years? I had no interest in reading his letter. The letter was originally lost, but it was found by my mischievous younger brother from the basket. He was naturally mischievous and read the letter without a second thought. Mother, who is this person? Does he have a grudge against you? Aren't you already the Duchess of the state? Why would he still ask you to become the Prime Minister's wife? Years ago, I was shipwrecked, lost my memory, and was saved by a small peddler. Not long after, I married him in the south. Until recently, when the blood clot in my brain dissipated, I remembered past events. Tianfu is the child I had with my current husband, naturally unaware of my past with Shen Nanqing. Shen Nanqing is the currently prominent Prime Minister, and we grew up together. It was I, Song Yael, who longed to marry the ideal husband, when my father and Shen's father were both wrongfully accused. Our 2 families were confiscated and exiled. My father was a renowned general, and many had been indebted to him. Moreover, most of the guards escorting us were old acquaintances of my father, so life wasn't too difficult. But the Shen family was the complete opposite. Shen's father was a humble scholar who rose to become an upright official, with no backing in the court whatsoever. Before the imperial guards arrived, the bailiffs had already confined the Shen family within their residence, denying them food and water, which led to the death of the elderly Shen patriarch, who was over 50. At that time, Shen Nanqing's elder sister had just come of age and, along with her aunt, was forcibly taken away by several bailiffs for a body search. Upon returning, both of them committed suicide by jumping into a well. After that, only his father, mother, and he himself were left, only to be taken away for exile. Before they had even reached halfway, his father fell seriously ill and died. Shen's mother also jumped into the lake to commit suicide on the day her husband died of illness. Only a chicken like Shen Nanqing was left, who had lost the ability to speak and became half a fool. The Yamen runner found Shen Nanqing to be a burden and wanted to leave him on the side of the road. It was I who took pity on him and begged my father to keep him. When we arrived in the northern lands, only the 2 of us children survived, so naturally, we spent every day together. But father was afraid that Shen Nanqing, with his frail body like his father's, might not survive in the north. He told me not to get too close to him, lest I be heartbroken later, but I didn't listen. Shen Nanqing was my only playmate. How could I abandon him? Every day, I would drag Shen Nanqing to go fishing, hunting wild boars, and picking wild fruits. With me around, Shen Nanqing gradually started smiling again, and his mutism was cured. Father even adopted Shen Nanqing as his foster son after his innocence was cleared. and brought him back to the capital. But at this time, Shen Nanxing told me he was going to file a complaint to the emperor. He said he could see the faces of the 18 members of the Shen family who died in his dreams, and if he didn't clear their names, he wouldn't be able to face his parents even in death. He told me that this matter involved countless people, and getting involved meant risking one's life. He told me to stay far away from him, but in the end, I still didn't agree. You are the husband I have chosen, even if it means death, I will be with you, and so, I concealed it from my father and pledged my love to Shen Nanxing, and together we went to file a complaint with the emperor. Later, we encountered countless assassins sent to kill us. Fortunately, I had been trained in martial arts by my father since childhood, and under the flashes of swords, I saved Shen Nanxing time and again. The day before we were to meet the emperor, Shen Nanxing was still urging me, if I die tomorrow, you must return to your father immediately, don't tell anyone about our secret love affair. But I went straight to my father and lied to him, telling him I was pregnant. I forced my father to go to court to save Shen Nanxing with my life, and I also forced the emperor to clear Shen's family of their wrongful accusations, and because of this incident, Shen Nanxing caught the emperor's attention and was appointed to the court. Later, I married Shen Nanxing. When we got married, Shen Nanxing promised my father that he would only have me in his life. If our love fades, he will give me a divorce letter to set me free. But Shen Nanxing didn't know that before the wedding. My father had pulled me aside and told me many things. My father secretly told me that he felt something was wrong about this. If Shen Nanxing truly loved me, he should stay away from me, not engage in a secret affair with me and then ask me to leave. Now that I think about it, he was clearly using my family. Father sighed, admiring how Shen Nanxing, despite his young age and suffering, could eventually clear his family's name, showing a temperament unlike most. In his heart, the most important person would likely only be himself. Father is afraid that one day Shen Nanxing will betray me, but I don't believe it, saying that father is overthinking. I grew up with Shen Nanxing, how could I not know him well? If he dares to bully me, I'll chop him up myself. I thought that married life would be the same as before. Shen Nanxing strategizes, and I am responsible for protecting him. But I didn't know that the capital is different from the northern border, and the wives of officials cannot easily go out. The only social interaction is gatherings among the wives. But father was a military general, and all I learned from him was how to wield swords and spears. I knew nothing about the affairs of ladies in the capital, nor the trivialities of managing a household. There was no choice but to set aside my swords and spears and pick up the abacus and poetry books on the table. Even so, many a laugh was had at my expense, seeing me flounder among the noble women, ridiculed by them. Shen Nanxing merely said, "Yile, this is in the capital, not the northern region. Don't keep that small-town attitude from the north. Now when you go out, you're not just the daughter of General Song, but my wife." Shen Nanxing, think carefully about what you say and do. I didn't want to embarrass Shen Nanxing, so I had to learn how to interact with officials' families, but even so, it wasn't enough to satisfy him. By his side were his long-lost cousin, the official's daughter who admired his talents, and the sisters of his classmates from the academy. Back then, he would talk to me every day. "Why can't you learn from others? Stop messing around with those things all day. You should read more books and learn more about life. With your temperament, how can you ever help me?" Indeed, if it weren't for our family's misfortune, we wouldn't be on the same path. I just wanted to ask him, how long has it been since he last watched the stars with me? How long since he played with me? It's not like I just became this way today. Why didn't he ever say anything about it before? Even though he said my personality wasn't right, he never left my bed at night. Not long after, I became pregnant with Shen Lin. However, giving birth to him nearly cost me half my life. The midwife asserted that I had contracted a cold toxin in the northern lands, and it was likely that I would not be able to conceive again after this pregnancy. My body also became much weaker as a result. There was no choice, so Shen Nanxing had to call upon his cousin Xu Nyangzi to help manage the household. People urged Shen Nanxing to take another concubine to continue the Shen family line, but he simply refused. At that time, I cherished Shen Lin dearly, willing to give my heart for him, not only because he would be my only child, but more so because he was the child I had for Shen Nanxing. Shen Lin looked very much like me, with curved eyebrows and a smiling mouth, but his temperament was just like his father's, preferring quiet to activity. I was worried he would grow up like Shen Nanxing did as a child, becoming a scrawny little chick, so, besides studying, I made Shen Lin run laps and practice horse dance every day. I didn't actually intend for him to pursue martial arts, I just wanted to build a strong physique for him, believing it would help him go further in life. Back then, Linna's favorite activity was archery. He said that when he got married in the future, he wanted to shoot a pair of wild geese himself to give to his future wife. He even pestered me to make him the sharpest little bow, but later, Shen Nanxing began to teach Shen Lin the basics. When he saw me making Shen Lin practice horse dance, he felt it was too crude and not something a scholar should learn. So he had Shen Lin move to a separate courtyard. After that, he only taught Shen Lin poetry and books every day, not allowing him to go anywhere else during his free time, keeping him confined to the study. One time, when Shen Nanxing went out rarely, I took Shen Lin's favorite bow and arrows, thinking of giving Shen Lin a surprise, but when Shen Lin saw the pile of targets and glanced at the small bow beside him, he only frowned in disgust. "Mother, why do we have to do this again? Father said my hands are for writing, not for playing with these things." After saying that, he threw the small bow onto the ground. "This body is the foundation of everything. Without a good body, do you want to end up like your grandfather and the others, staying indoors all day, only knowing how to powder your face and perfume yourself, wearing women's clothing? Where is the responsibility of a man? Warriors use swords and staves, officials use brushes and ink, all of which are places where men shine." That's why I once wanted to be with Shen Nanxing, and I even fantasized that our future child could inherit his intellect and my father's physique. I never expected that my child would turn out this way. Even more unexpected was that Shen Lin repeated those words to Shen Nanxing that very night. "Wicked woman, how dare you curse at my father and mother in front of Lina? What do you mean scholars die young? Only someone like your father can live long. If that's the case, I really shouldn't have married you. We were never meant to be together." Hearing this, I finally couldn't hold back, so I stood up and looked directly at him. "You're right, we were never meant to be on the same path. We shouldn't have been together in the first place. If that's the case, then let's get a divorce. You promised my father that if our life together couldn't work out, we would get a divorce. If we divorce, Lina will return to my family estate with me and take my surname." But when Shen Nanxing heard this, he merely smiled. "Divorce? What do you have to divorce me? Your father is already dead, just like my father. They're both dead. In the Shen family, there is no divorce, only the dismissal of a wife." Shen Nanxing gave me 3 days to make a choice. Either I obediently remain the lady of the Shen family, allowing him to marry his well-educated and polite cousin, Lady Shu, as a secondary wife. Either let me leave with a divorce paper. After much thought, I took the sword my father gave me and went to find Shen Lin. I asked him if he wanted to leave with me. "I want to divorce your father. Lina, would you like to come with me?" Hearing me say this, Lina gave me a strange look. "Father is only taking a secondary wife. Why are you reacting like this? Mother, which prominent family doesn't have multiple wives and concubines? Besides, father is only taking one. Lady Shu is virtuous and kind. She certainly won't compete with you. Moreover, with Lady Shu joining the family, father's career will progress much more smoothly. Aren't you tired of dealing with all the bribes and arrangements? With Sister Shu here, she can handle everything for you. Mother, this is the best idea possible. So why are you so angry? Mother, I never expected that the child who came out of my womb, the one I gave half my life for, would say such a thing." I looked at Shen Lin, and his ears had already turned red. Although he had learned many schemes from Shen Nanxing, he was, after all, born from my womb, and some thoughts could not escape my eyes. "Shen Lin, you know that your mother is illiterate, but she also understands principles. First, your father promised in front of you and your grandfather that he would only have me in his life. This is a commitment, and breaking it is a lack of integrity. Second, having a rightful wife in the family but giving the power of management to others is trampling on my dignity. Third, as my son, are you truly thinking of me, or are you just seeking your own future? A mother who has been cast aside naturally cannot compare to a father with a bright future, but the elders say it well. It's better to follow a begging mother than a father in power." Hearing me say this, Lin still tried to argue. Mother, please don't act on impulse. Father is doing this all for the sake of our family. Hearing this, I finally understood. They say that sons resemble their fathers, and it turns out to be true. You truly are a fine offspring of Shen Nanxing, just like him, always making the choice that benefits you the most in any situation. When he married me, Shen Nanxing was after the support of my father. Now that he wants to divorce me, it's because he's found better support. I'm asking you one last time, do you want to come with me? If you come with me, I'll use all the support from my maternal family to help you. I am the only child in my family. Although my father has passed away, the connections he left in the court remain strong. Those brothers who fought alongside my father, those masters I once studied under, they will all help me secure a good future for Shen Lin. But when Shen Lin heard this, he only glared at me with hatred and said, I don't want to. My hands are meant for writing and calligraphy, not for struggling to make a living like those common folk. What's the use of being a military general? With the world at peace, even the best bows are stored away, no longer needed. Mother, father is right. You're just a foolish woman, a crazy woman. You should have been sent away long ago, with a woman like you in the Shen family. It's truly a misfortune. Hearing this, I didn't say much and simply turned around. At that moment, Shen Lin's vicious voice came from behind. You don't want father, you don't want me. Once you step out of this door, never come back. If you walk out that door, I'll consider you dead. Hearing this, I didn't turn back and continued walking forward. Crazy woman, I'll see how you die in the future. Hearing this, a wave of bitterness surged within me, but in the end, I merely turned around and smiled. Then, I asked Shen Lin one last time, if it weren't for me, this crazy woman, where would you be? I only ask you one thing. Do you truly believe, deep down, that all of this is my fault? What came back to me was the cry that Shen Lin summoned with all his strength. Of course it's you. You're just as father said you were. You're an ignorant fool, a lunatic. On the day I left, I only took with me the divorce paper given by Shen Nanxing. At first, Shen Nanxing was reluctant and tried to act shamelessly in front of me, but it seems he forgot that I, Song Yael, am the master of acting shameless. In the northern lands, even the most brazen ruffians feared me, for the shameless fear the ruthless, and the ruthless fear those who are fearless of death. The next second, I placed the sword at his neck, telling him that either he gives me the divorce papers today, or I will fulfill my promise and cut him down. No matter if it means trading one life for another. My father once said that even in death, a person must never let their spirit be broken. That's why he was able to hold a border city with just a few dozen veteran soldiers, and even in death, he never knelt down to beg for mercy. Now that Shen Nanxing has insulted me, I absolutely cannot let him break my spirit. At first, Shen Nanxing thought I was joking, but when the blood started to trickle down his neck, he realized his fear. After tremblingly writing the divorce papers, he cursed me viciously, calling me a mad woman. I merely replied to him, say one more word, and I'll cut out your tongue. Seeing Shen Nanxing's pale face, I finally smiled with satisfaction. That's right, timid and weak, always assessing the situation. This is who you are. As I left the Shen residence, I had already made up my mind. From now on, I will go my way and the Shen family will go theirs. The second day after I left, I boarded a boat heading south to relax, never expecting that this journey would mark a 5-year separation. When I returned, I held Tianfu's hand and carried my little sister in my arms. Before bed, I carefully washed Tianfu's feet. After washing, I pinched Tianfu's chubby cheeks and poked his double chin. The icy hand had just touched his chin when he let out an odd cry, causing his little sister to giggle hum beside him. Little sister laughs just like a piggy. From now on, let's call her Pepper. Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh. These siblings are just like their father, full of all sorts of strange and quirky ideas. You don't get the final say. We have to wait for your father to return. Your name was chosen by your mother, so now it's your father's turn to name our younger sister. My current husband, Mu He, has a mind that leaps in ways completely different from ordinary men. In other families, isn't it always the men who decide the names of the younger generation? But with him, he would argue that since the child comes from my womb, naturally, my opinion should be heard. Some time ago, he sent a message by carrier pigeon, saying that it was not easy for me to have a daughter. And I should name my little sister. He knows a lot. But when we are together, he never belittles me by flaunting his intelligence. What he loves most is using his cleverness to do many interesting things to amuse me. Under his influence, my disposition has become increasingly cheerful. However, he is not by my side now, because he needs to find important cargo. He will arrive in the capital a few days later than us. After a while, we will be able to reunite as a family. Since I returned home, Shen Nanxing has been haunting me relentlessly. A former maid came to tell me that 3 days after my divorce, Shen Nanxing sent someone to my door. At that time, my mother directly had the servants chase the Shen family away with brooms. On the 7th day, Shen Nanxing came to my house in person to look for me. He told my mother that he had been bewitched by a ghost and forgotten my virtues. Now he regrets it and no longer thinks about taking a second wife. He only wants mother to persuade me to return. But by then, I had already boarded the boat heading south. So he said he would personally come to pick me up when I returned. Soon after, news came from outside that I had encountered a shipwreck. When Shen Nanxing found out, he went mad, barging into my home and smashing the memorial altar mother had set up for me. No one expected that a delicate scholar like Shen Nanxing could flip the entire coffin in one go. My former wet nurse came to me and told me that later, Shen Nanxing knelt on 1,000 steps and went to Anping Temple, just praying for my safe return. Even to this day, he has not remarried. Every year around Qingming, he would sit in a daze for several days at my cenotaph. But after hearing all these words, I only felt like it was a story. After being married to him for so many years, I finally understood what my father had said. Shen Nanxing is adept at assessing situations. He knew how much the emperor valued my father, who sacrificed himself for the country, as my father's only daughter. If I were to die because of him, it was hard to say whether the emperor would remember the old loyalty and demand his life in return. As long as he pretends to be deeply affectionate, he can get the world to forgive him on my behalf, and he doesn't lose out in this deal. As for Shen Lin's coming-of-age ceremony, I won't be attending, because 5 years ago, I made up my mind to go our separate ways. Mother, grandfather's house is so much fun, looking at the full courtyard of swords, spears, and staves. Qianfu was like a little bear entering a honeycomb, delighted to touch and look around. Seeing him like this, his mother beside him was also laughing uncontrollably. This child, he really resembles your father. Hearing his mother's words, I only just realized it myself. Qianfu and I don't look alike, nor does he resemble Muhe, but he is the spitting image of our father. Seeing him in the courtyard, wielding a long red-tasseled spear with his small frame, I felt a warmth in my eyes. Mother said father has never seen Qianfu's face. In a few days, it will be father's death anniversary, and she plans to have a portrait of Qianfu drawn and burned so father can see it. And Xiao Mai, we only have you, and if we see Xiao Mai, she'll definitely say she looks just like you when you were little. As she spoke, mother sighed with emotion. It's been so long since our manor was this lively. If only we could have such lively days every day in the future. At that moment, the steward came to find mother, saying there were guests at the door. At first, I thought it was father's brothers coming to see him. After all, since father passed away, his brothers have taken good care of our family. However, to my surprise, the person brought in was not an uncle, but a figure taller than me, with eyes that were both unfamiliar and familiar. Mother, you're really alive, you've really come back. A man who looked remarkably similar to me strode quickly towards me. That was Shen Lin. Watching Shen Lin approach me quickly, I didn't move forward but instead headed towards the weapon rack. Just as he was about to reach me, I grabbed a wooden staff from the weapon rack, swung it around, and stopped it between us. Young Master Shen, you must have mistaken me for someone else, I said. I am not your mother. At this moment, Qianfu, who had been playing with weapons in the courtyard, also heard the commotion. He quickly grabbed his spear and came to my side. Who are you? What are you yelling about? This is my mother. As he spoke, Qianfu stood in front of me, looking like he was ready to protect me, and before him, Shen Lin heard this and his eyes also fell on the little radish in front of him, barely reaching his waist. Mother, who is he? Why does he call you mother? Mother, don't you recognize me? I'm Lina. Shen Lin's brows furrowed tightly. His eyes fixed straight at me. He resembled me, yet there were traces of Shen Nanxing in his features. Who are you? How annoying. This is my mother, not your mother. Tianfu's little mouth, just like his father's, could talk non-stop, making those who loved him adore him to death, while those who hated him loathed him just as intensely. Seeing this scene, my mother arrived just in time and quickly smoothed things over. You two are brothers, don't lose your harmony. But upon hearing this, Tianfu turned directly to me, his face full of fear. Mother, this guy's hair is whiter than my father's, his dark circles are darker than Wangcai's. Who's his brother? I'd call him uncle at most. The Shunlin in front of him indeed had premature grey hair and dark circles around his eyes, looking like someone who was internally depleted. Studying is the path everyone strives for, and Shunlin isn't the only one who has exhausted himself for it. But perhaps because he inherited half of my intellect, his desire to improve is far from as easy as Shen Nanyang's, which is why he needs to put in more effort. But I didn't feel any guilt. After all, this was the path he had chosen himself. Later, it was mother who acted as a mediator, allowing Shunlin to stay for dinner. Seeing this, Tianfu quickly clung to me, urging me to feed him sugar cakes. Unable to resist his coaxing, I had to cut the sugar cakes into small pieces and fed one to Tianfu. How utterly lacking in manners. Boys and girls should not share a seat after the age of 7. And here you are, so grown up, still needing your mother to feed you. Truly shameless. Hearing this, Tianfu burst out laughing, clutching his stomach. Who doesn't know shame? You're just jealous that mother favors me. Besides, boys and girls don't sit separately until they're 7. I'm only 4 this year. So why can't I sit with mother? As Tianfu spoke, he turned around and hugged me tightly again. Mother, I want another piece. Feed me. Okay Tilda. Oh my, it's so delicious. Indeed, a child with a mother is like a treasure, while a child without a mother is like a blade of grass. Tilda. Hearing the words a child without a mother, a crack suddenly came from the other side. It was the sound of Shunlin's teacup shattering. Who says I don't have a mother? Mother has clearly come back to find me now. When the words left his mouth, Shunlin looked at me. Perhaps he hoped to hear something from me, but I had no intention of forgiving him. People believe what others say because it's what they want to hear, but that doesn't mean what he said is the truth. The truth is, you don't have a mother anymore. Your mother died the day she left the Shen estate. My words pierced Shunlin and also pierced my mother. Mother pulled me into the room, scolding me for treating Shunlin this way during the days you were away. If it weren't for Lin coming by often, I would have lost all hope long ago. Daughter, I know you want to live your own life now, but don't be so harsh on Lin. Everyone has a heart made of flesh. Over the years, he has really suffered a lot. Back then, he was young and didn't understand. Now, he has truly realized it. I stared straight at my mother in front of me for a long time before speaking. Mother, does that mean because it was a misunderstanding in the past, I must forgive him? Even if it was just a misunderstanding before, even if he was young and made those mistakes, but there's no denying the harm I suffered, the flesh I brought into the world, the child I gave birth to with all my might, the knife I stabbed with my own hands. If I forgive him, then I'm betraying the person I was when I walked out of the Shin estate. So what if I'm a bad mother? Don't treat me like his mother anymore. Treat me like a human being first. This is also what my husband told me. If you're too afraid of others' negative evaluations, you can only live within their desires. I have a clear conscience, so why should I fear what others say? After a night of arguing, mother never mentioned the Shen family again. After that, she made hundreds of dumplings for me, and Tianfu and I ate until we were stuffed. You're grown up, and I can't control your affairs anymore. In any case, you decide. As long as your father's brothers in the court are not all dead, if Shen Nanqing really comes knocking, these uncles and elders won't let him bully us. Hearing this, I just smiled. Mother, please don't worry, we've already gone our separate ways. How could he possibly cause trouble for me? Even if we both end up in the capital in the future, we'll be like two rivers that never cross paths. In the future, when our family is together, I guarantee every day will be a happy one. When I said this, the chopsticks in mother's hand suddenly fell to the ground. In the capital, yes, once Muhi returns, we'll move back to the capital. From now on, we'll never be apart again. Nuanuan, are you serious? Mother would naturally be shocked, as the elders always say that a married daughter is like water spilled out. Moreover, I splashed this water all the way to Jiangnan. never expecting to return now. However, He has always been different from other men. In his words, he has no relatives or friends in this world. We three are his roots. Wherever we are, he will be there. Besides, He has already sent a letter saying that the saint wants to grant him the title of duke, and if mother doesn't go to Jiangnan, he will take me back to the capital to be the duchess. Wife, wait for me to return. Wait for me to come back. I absolutely won't let you lose face in front of that scumbag. However, He usually goes out for at most 10 days to half a month before returning, but this time, he has been gone for far too long. I wonder if he will return on time when spring arrives. However, before I could meet He, trouble came first. The Shun family sent someone again. This time it was Shun Nanxing. He brought 3 chests of treasures. Speaking humbly about how he had acknowledged his mistake and pleaded with my mother to intercede, asking me to return with him, and when I heard this, I simply had the servants pour a few basins of water outside the door, then locked it tight, no longer paying attention to the sounds outside. That day was the first snowfall, and I heard that Shun Nanxing had been waiting outside all day. I had thought that with his temperament, after being humiliated by me, he would no longer have any dealings with me, but to my surprise, the very next day, he brought Shun Lin to my door. He stripped Shun Lin of his outer garments, made him carry a bundle of thorny branches on his back, and forced him to kneel at my doorstep. Le Niang refuses to return home. It must be this unfilial son who has angered you. Now he is kneeling at the door, begging for forgiveness. I hope you can grant us an audience. Upon hearing the servant's words, I immediately lost my appetite for the food in my mouth. Indeed, these scholars speak of righteousness with their mouths, but all they think about is scheming. If Shun Nanxing came to apologize, I might have to stoke the flames a bit more, but it was Shun Lin who bore the guilt. Although I've already given up on Shun Lin, during the years I was missing, mother almost placed all her hopes on Shun Lin. Seeing Shun Lin suffer, mother couldn't bear it, so she could only come to beg me. Seeing mother like this, I could only agree to meet Shun Nanxing once. At that moment, Tianfu, the mischievous one, also snuggled into my arms. Mother, is that bad guy coming to see you? No, no, it's too dangerous for you to meet him alone. Father said that when he's not home, I'm the man of the house. I want to protect you. Absolutely can't let that scumbag take you away. As soon as I heard this, I knew who Tianfu had learned it from, even though I would never look back. But seeing Tianfu's adorable appearance, I also wanted to see how this kid would protect me. When Shun Nanxing brought Shun Lin to see me, what they saw was me holding Tianfu's hand and carrying a doll in my arms. Seeing Tianfu, Shun Lin beside him was already slightly red-eyed. On the opposite side, Shun Nanxing patted Shun Lin's shoulder and then looked at me. Linam, it's been years, yet you're still the same as before. Shun Nanxing seemed to want to say something to evoke memories from my past. But Tianfu in front of me didn't give him any chance. Uncle, are you blind? My mother is getting more and more beautiful. Loving someone is like nurturing a flower. My father and I love my mother the most, so of course she's much more beautiful now than before. The aunties next door all say that when my mother and I go out together, we look just like siblings. As he spoke, Tianfu rolled his eyes at Shun Nanxing, then he jumped onto the stool and gave me a hard kiss. After the kiss, he smiled and glanced at Shun Lin below. Shun Lin was so angry that he was about to come over, but Shun Nanxing beside him raised his hand, stopping his steps. Lenumia, what is this? When speaking, Shun Nanxing's eyes were fixed on Tianfu. This is my precious son. However, after hearing me say this, Shun Nanxing smirked. Linam, don't joke around. This child doesn't resemble you in the slightest. As she spoke, Shun Nanxing pointed her finger at Shun Lin. Just look at Lina, and you'll see what your true child should look like. Moreover, back then, when you gave birth to Lina, you had a difficult labor. The doctor said you might have trouble conceiving again. How could you possibly have any other children now? Before I could even curse, Tianfu beside me had already spoken up. Phut. And you even passed the imperial exams. How can you not understand such a simple thing? I'm not like my mother, of course, because I take after my father. And after getting divorced, to slander someone else for being infertile, how tasteless. My mother and father were able to have me and my sister, 2 healthy and adorable babies. With you, all you can produce is a defective, brainless product. As he spoke, Tianfu made a silly face at Shun Nanxing. Seeing this, Shun Lin became increasingly unable to control himself, his eyes practically radiating tangible killing intent. Shun Nanqing in front of him merely extended a finger and glanced at Shun Lin, signaling him to stay silent. When elders are speaking, how dare you interrupt? Hearing Shun Nanqing say this, I couldn't hold back. Besides me, who else in this room is considered Tianfu's elder? They're just a bunch of ignorant beasts. What does my Tianfu need to respect them for? As I spoke, I stepped in front of Tianfu. I used to always think that I was only good at wielding swords and not versed in great principles, so whenever Shun Nanqing spoke, I would quietly listen by the side. But today, hearing Shun Nanqing target Tianfu, I didn't want to give him any face at all. As Muhi said, politeness is for those who are polite. If someone has already come to your doorstep to pick a fight, giving them a good face is just asking for trouble. However, my actions made Shun Lin, who was not far from us, even more envious, and he couldn't help but blurt out a mother. Hearing this, I showed no reaction at all. Shun Lin's mother had long been dead, and now all I cared about were Tianfu and my younger sister. At that moment, Shun Nanqing burst into laughter. Hehe, looking at him like this, he really is a clever lad. But Le Niang, if you have any grievances, just let them out. This is something I deserve. We've been through thick and thin together since childhood. No one in this world can compare. The misunderstandings from before were just me falling for Shu Yi's tricks. I know you must have me in your heart. You're just still upset with me now. If you would return, I will surely make up for all that I owe you. From now on, you will have the final say in all family matters. If you wish to associate with those officials' wives, then do so. If you do not, then ignore them. Now that I am the foremost among the civil officials, I naturally can be your backing. All I ask is that you no longer reject me with this country boy you picked up from outside. Hearing this, I actually laughed. Is Shun Nanqing out of his mind? Shun Nanqing, what do you think you are? When have I, Song Yile, ever thrown something away only to pick it up again? Open your dog eyes and look. Both of them are my children. Why would I get angry over my own flesh and blood with you? Saying this, I turned my little sister around in my arms to show him. It was clear that the child looked exactly like me, like two shadows carved from the same mold. Seeing my little sister in my arms, Shun Nanqing widened his eyes, no longer the composed demeanor he had before. His eyes reddened slightly, and he stared intently at my little sister in my arms. After a long while, he finally spoke. Le Niang, it turns out what they said was true. These two really are the children you had during your amnesia. But none of that matters. As he spoke, Shun Nanqing stepped forward again, trying to grab me, but I had already turned away, not giving him the chance. Ari, Le Niang, you're still as childlike as ever. However, it doesn't matter. If you like them, you can bring them back to the Shun residence. In the future, I promise to treat them as if they were my own children, never mistreating them. As she spoke, Shun Nanqing took a step forward, intending to pat Tianfu on the head. But Tianfu had already stepped back, dodging the gesture. Hearing Shun Nanqing's words, I couldn't help but laugh. My child doesn't need the care of the Prime Minister Shun. He has his own father. Why does he need to find someone else to call dad? But hearing me say that, Shun Nanqing also retorted, then where is his father? During the time you've been back home, you've never once seen the husband you mentioned. Le Niang, the waters around Ryukyu are treacherous. Are you sure your husband is still alive? Shun Nanqing's words sent a chill through me. How did he know Muhi went to Ryukyu? Unless, what does he plan to do to Muhi? Finally, I agreed to Shun Nanqing that I would attend Shun Lin's coming-of-age ceremony tomorrow. In exchange, he had to ensure Muhi's safe return. The Prime Minister has countless ways to make people comply, but I am a straightforward person, not cut from the same cloth as you, and I don't beat around the bush. If anything happens to my husband, even if Minister Shun hasn't lifted a finger, I will hold you accountable and make the Shun family pay in blood, a tooth for a tooth, an eye for an eye, a life for a life. As I spoke, I began to wave my beloved Amei daggers. Then, I gently waved my hand. The tip of the spear spun rapidly, brushing past Shun Nanqing's forehead and taking away a strand of white hair. Finally, the tip of the spear stopped right in front of Shun Nanqing's eyes. I looked at Shun Nanqing across from me, the corner of my mouth slightly curling up. Father always said that we Song family members are not to be trifled with. Mother, you've come after all. Shen Nanxing is now the Prime Minister, and Shen Lin is his only son, so his status has naturally risen accordingly. Thus, many well-dressed young men attended Shen Lin's coming-of-age ceremony. I sat at the main table, and Shen Lin would frequently bring his friends over to meet me. Each time he saw me, he would introduce me to others, saying, "This is my mother. My mother has been accompanying my grandfather on campaigns since she was young, and she is the most skilled in martial arts." Seeing his proud expression at this moment, I simply picked up my teacup and took a sip. Years ago, when Shen Lin saw me playing with a spear, he would only call me a shrew, but now he praises my martial skills in front of everyone. Every time he finishes speaking, he looks straight at me, as if hoping I will respond in some way. I simply raise my cup to drink tea and nod to the young men in front of me. Beyond that, I do nothing else. Although I am Shen Lin's biological mother, I only agreed to Shen Nanxing's request to attend his coming-of-age ceremony today. As for anything else, I've long since learned to be wise. One should not place too much hope in those who do not deserve it. It took me a painful, blooded lesson to learn this truth. And now it's time for Shen Lin to learn it too. As for Shen Lin's later request for me to help him tie his hair during the hair-tying ceremony, I naturally did not agree. You are the only son of Shen Xiong, with a noble status, so you should seek help from someone of high standing. I am just a rough woman, unable to help you with your hair. Hearing me say this, Shen Lin's eyes immediately reddened, and then he knelt down, wrapping his arms around my waist. "Mother, you are my mother. I only want you to do my hair, not anyone else. I am also flesh that fell from your stomach. You can't treat me like this." He held me tightly with reddened eyes, refusing to let me go. There was no choice. I had to strike his Zanju acupoint with precision, using just enough force to render him unconscious temporarily. "Shen Xiong, I have fulfilled my promise to you. In half an incense stick's time, the noble young master should awaken. Next, you will fulfill your promise to me, won't you?" At this point, my words paused. "You should know better than anyone that I am a mad woman. If you deceive me again, I will do anything." As I turned around, Shen Nanxing stepped forward once more. This time, he didn't grab my hand but instead clutched my sleeve. "Liang, after father's death, I originally thought that only by grasping power and constantly moving upward could I have the life I wanted. But I was wrong. The higher I went, the fewer people were around me. Xu Yi values my reputation and wants to become the Prime Minister's wife. Those officials who follow me want power and expect me to pull them upward. Only you, valued me for who I am. But I was too foolish. I lost you. 5 years have passed already. How many more 5 years can one have in a lifetime? Liang, could you give me another chance to make up for the past? Lina misses you. And I miss you too." By the end, Shen Nanxing, who never easily showed his vulnerability, was already teary-eyed. But hearing his sobs, I only felt annoyed. "Shen Nanxing, actually, at first, what I was interested in wasn't you as a person, but your mind. I thought that by marrying you, I could give birth to a strong, healthy, and intelligent child. But now, thinking back, I was really wrong. Good fortune is scarce in this world. How could it keep falling into your lap again and again? So I can't give up the hard-won good fortune I have now just because you regret it. I can't afford to be delayed by you anymore. Absolutely not." With that said, I pulled out the Amei thorn from my hand and, without the slightest hesitation, sliced through the sleeve he was holding onto. "I don't regret having loved him before. But I absolutely cannot be foolish again." Seeing me return, Tianfu happily rushed into my arms. He muttered that fortunately I hadn't been abducted, or else he would end up like that cheap older brother of his, becoming a child without a mother. I did, and I ruffled his hair fiercely. This guy, just like his old man, is a sly fox. I thought that after this, my ties with the Shen family would be severed forever, with no further connection. Unexpectedly, half a month later, a grand palanquin and a long procession of betrothal gifts appeared at the Song residence. Outside the door, the man in the wedding attire was Shen Nanxing. "My wife has suffered for many years and forgotten our past affections, but I do not blame her. Now that I have come with a grand procession to marry her again, I believe she will remember the good times we once shared." Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh in anger, wondering if the Prime Minister Shen had mixed up his memories. "This Shen Xiong has been divorced from me for years, and I am no longer his wife. Why is he now putting on an act of deep affection? But upon hearing this, Shen Nanqing just smiled. When did I ever divorce my wife? I never saw any divorce papers at the government office. Since there are no divorce papers, we are naturally still husband and wife. Hearing this, it suddenly dawned on me, as the head of the civil officials, he could naturally take the divorce papers from the government office quietly, and the other set of divorce papers in my possession. When I received them, I left the capital by boat to clear my mind, completely forgetting to register them at the government office first. The boat of the past has long since capsized, and that divorce document naturally has long since dissolved into the river. I'm so furious I just want to carve him up, but there are people everywhere outside, under the watchful eyes of everyone. If I dared to make a move, I'm afraid even my mother would be implicated. Only now do I understand just how powerful this scholar's tongue can be. The street where I live is surrounded by people who were once brothers of my father. Some uncles came forward to speak on my behalf, saying that the divorce was agreed upon by Shen Nanqing himself, so how could he go back on it now? Moreover, 5 years have passed, and Liang has already remarried and given birth. So how can Shen Nanqing come to destroy her marriage again? But Shen Nanqing just smiled and said that since there is no record of the divorce in the government office, I am still his wife. Even if I have to appeal to the emperor himself, I will still be his wife. He's not one to shy away from lodging a complaint with the emperor. This time, he's determined to take me home. Liang, you'd better get into the sedan chair quickly. Today, even if I have to tie you up, I will take you back. In the future, whether it's Lina or your 2 children, I will treat them as my own, never mistreating them. All that has passed is already in the past. Please, give me another chance. As he spoke, Shen Nanqing no longer maintained his previous demeanor and directly knelt down before me. Then, his servants stripped off his wedding attire and tied a whip to his back. He actually began to confess his sins at my doorstep. This whole act made me want to curse. Just as I was about to step forward and kick him over, a familiar figure flashed before my eyes. A man suddenly appeared before them, followed by a flying kick that landed directly in Shen Nanqing's chest. Screw you, you deadbeat, trying to steal my girl. With just one move, Shen Nanqing was knocked to the ground. Dad, well done. Behind me came Tianfu's cheers. When I focused my gaze, I saw the gentle and kind young man from my memory now rolling up his sleeves, glaring viciously at the fallen Shen Nanqing. Seeing me look at him, he quickly composed his expression and turned to me with a pitiful look. Wife, I'm back. It was the husband I had longed for. He. By rights, if the prime minister of the current dynasty were to be knocked down in the street, it would certainly lead to a case in the Yamen. But first, the neighbors who gathered to watch were all old acquaintances of my father. When the officials from the Yamen came to inquire, everyone only said that Minister Shen was frail in health and had to carry a bundle of thorns to apologize, so he caught a cold and fainted. Second, my husband his voyage this time was not for business but to search for treasures. He presented to the emperor seeds called sweet potatoes and potatoes, which could feed the entire nation. He also discovered a method to turn sand into glass, a feat even more difficult than turning stone into gold, thereby enriching the national treasury. He also invented a weapon called a shell, capable of creating thunderous explosions from flat ground. He went from being a mere merchant to being granted the title of Duke against all norms. To be honest, I'm worried that his exceptional rise might provoke jealousy, but He assured me not to worry, as the emperor has already ingested the life bond Gu with him. If something were to happen to He, the emperor would be the first to perish, so how could the emperor dare to kill him? I'm afraid the emperor is the one who most wishes for him to live a long and prosperous life. Hearing this, I was amazed in my heart, but in the end, I only scolded him once. I wonder how you grew such courage. How dare you be so bold? And He quickly hugged me into his arms. If I weren't brave, how could I dare to marry you, this tigress Tilda? Hearing this, I quickly elbowed him in the stomach. What followed was his quick plea for mercy. Wife, I was wrong. You are my heart. You are my liver. You are 3/4 of my life. I must have done good deeds in my past life to marry you. Wife, I love you the most in the whole world. Hearing him say that, I only felt my face heat up. Although we had been married for a long time, hearing He suddenly say I love you still made my cheeks flush. You're just teasing me. What heart? What 3/4? It's all just your tricks. Before I could voice any complaints, I felt a tightness in my body, and the next second, I was firmly embraced by Muhi. Honey, I've missed you so much, Tilda. Then, a kiss landed on my neck. Outside, the moonlight was perfect, and inside, our shadows were paired as one. Since we all lived in the capital, we later encountered the Shen family several times. Once, Muhi and I went to listen to a storyteller narrate his work, The Journey to the West. Excited by the story, I whispered to Muhi, urging him to tell me what happens next. Muhi, in turn, teased me, saying he would only reveal the ending if I kissed him. Then, unable to resist my curiosity, I kissed him. After the kiss, he pointed proudly at me, and only then did I notice Shen Nanqing standing there, stunned, in the private room on the second floor. Another time, we all went to Deweilu to drink tea together. My younger sister, being playful, went to catch the kitten in the building, and the three of us chased her up and down for a long time. It happened that she ran into Shen Lin, who was here for tea, and Shen Lin found her amusing, chatting with her for a long time. It wasn't until later, when our whole family came looking for her, that Shen Lin realized my little sister was the baby I had held in my arms. Before leaving, he took off a jade pendant, saying it was a gift for my little sister. And all he wanted was to hear her call him older brother. But, no, big brother, I can't call you older brother. Little sister shook her head like a rattle drum. Older brother is a term for close relatives in the family. Although our family isn't very strict about rules, little sister still understands this principle. In the end, it was Muhi who stepped in and had little sister address the person. Little sister, you can call this big brother older brother. He is also a relative of our family. Hearing this, little sister sweetly called out to Shen Lin, brother. Hearing this, Shen Lin's eyes immediately turned red, then he quickly turned around and left without looking back. Later, when Shen Nanqing requested to be stationed in the northern borderlands, Shen Lin followed him out of the capital and never returned. After that, Muhi gained the emperor's favor. And every day the mansion was filled with people coming to pay their respects and offer gifts. But Muhi ignored them all, spending his days immersed in mysterious inventions, only thinking of ways to please me. When Tianfu grew up, he successfully passed the imperial examinations and became a top scholar, earning a reputation as a talented scholar of the current dynasty. Xiaomai inherited Muhi's mischievousness and my father's innate strength. Spending her days with Muhi on mysterious inventions, she said that when she grows up, she wants to be the pirate king and explore the outside world. I can't control them, I can only control myself. Anyway, everyone has their own choices to make. As long as they can take responsibility for their own lives and feel no guilt. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.